This is Fashion Revolution, and this is our August 2021 challenge. Today, we have Nancy Morris-Judd from Recycle Runway with us, which I'm super excited about. And your life is so all-encompassing. I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the group.
My name is Nancy Morris-Judd, and I am on the lands of the Chinook, the Multnomah, and the Clackamas tribes, among others, also known as Portland, Oregon.
You can go next. I'm Ashleigh, the CEO and founder of Recycle to Riches, and I am on Tujunga land, and that is the Los Angeles Basin.
Hi, I am Glenevea. My brand is Unique Designs, and I am in Jamaica. And before we inhabited it, the land belonged to the Taínos and the Arawak Indians.
Nice. My name is Denese, and my brand is So That and Love the Environment. And as far as I know, everything I stand on is Indian land. So Seattle is where I am. Sort of says the whole thing.
I'm Elena Corynn, and I am on Coast Salish Duwamish land.
My name is Lauren Snowden. My brand is Sueño, and I believe, according to the map, I am on Hohokam land, which is in Arizona.
Wonderful. And I'm Stacy Bernstein. My brand is Spellcaster Aggie V, so a little bit of magic in your clothes. I live on Salish Duwamish territory here in Seattle. And Nancy, go ahead and tell us just a little bit more about Recycle Runway, and we'll just sort of bridge right from there into people asking questions.
I'm a sculptor who often gets mistaken as a fashion designer, and fashion design is an interest, but it's not a profession. It's not my training. I create sculptures that appear to be high fashion couture garments, but they are made out of trash. I exhibit my work in high traffic public locations. I use my work to initiate conversations about how we live on the planet. And that connects a lot to the land acknowledgements that we just did, actually. And I am still reckoning with, understanding, exploring how being the descendant of settlers has impacted my career. You know, everything I'm about to show you is really based on the privileges that have come from that, have come from my settler privilege, my white privilege, my class privilege that I have. And I started a journey about 2 years ago really exploring that, and there's one of the sculptures I'm going to share with you that talks about that. So this is an exhibition I just had in the Atlanta International Airport. It's my second exhibit that I've had there. The last one was about 10 years ago. There's solo exhibits of about 20 pieces. I kind of think of them as they're sort of my little worker bees. They're out in the world. Each one has a specific message related to a different environmental topic. The Price of Fashion I created for the Eco Fashion Week, put on by some Canadian folks. And so they had a particular challenge within that week. It was a collaboration with Savers, the thrift store, and they had designers go into the back of the store, pull out whatever they want, and then make a collection. So I created this as a performance art piece that could be inserted into a fashion show that talks about fast fashion, essentially. First, what happens is that this piece comes out, and it's made up of, you know, a bunch of dresses and skirts and shirts that have been cut apart and then put together and remade in different ways. And she represents conspicuous consumption. And as she walks down the aisle with her kind of stereotypical model she litters the runway with labels and tags that have been cut out of the garments. And then she's followed by this model who is wrapped up, choked, can kind of barely walk, by tags that have been wrapped around a dress that is inside out, kind of representing the other side of the fashion industry that we don't really see. And she kind of scurries along behind her, picking up her trash, essentially. You know, the labels tell us where it's made, and that can tell us a little bit about we can draw some inferences about who made it and their possible working conditions. Yeah, so the tags, you know, then also tell us what it's made out of, and that tells us a lot about the impacts of that piece of clothing, you know, whether it's made of organic cotton or not, whether it's nylon, you know. And then it tells us the wash and wear instructions, which the largest actually impact of our clothing, from what I've read, comes from how we care for it during its life that we own it. And so then the last piece in the show is the model who comes out and just says, you know, labels, what stories do they tell? And that's really the story that our clothing can tell us, that we can read in our labels. So that's one piece or one collection. And then the other piece I wanted to show you about is this suit of invisible settler privilege. And this was created in a collaboration with a a friend and colleague of mine, Dina Dart, who is coastal Chumash mestiza from like around the San Diego, Montecito area. She has invited me to do cultural sensitivity trainings with her. It started in museums. She's a museum professional and helps museums decolonize their art collections. And as part of that, provides these trainings for all of the staff to become more educated about all of the myriad of issues involved in decolonization of an art museum. She brought me in to do arts integration exercises, which is sort of a whole other thing. As part of this, we created this piece. This is made of Tyvek plastic, and then it was dyed black. As part of our training, we have people read privileges that non-native people have. For example, I don't worry that when I die, my language might die with me. That's a settler privilege. I brought the pattern pieces in before it was put together, and then people wrote with a black Sharpie between the pinstripes a privilege that they kind of connected to, that we read together. And then I sewed it all together. There's a lot more I could say about that, but I think I'll just pause now that I've given you a good idea of the work that I do, and let you ask me questions.
Well, I have a comment. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, this whole time, like, yeah, like mentally doing that every time you present what you're saying. So.
Well, wow, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I think I could say the same exact thing. A ditto on that for sure, Nancy. That's incredible. And just that story too, down the runway, and how you brought it all together was incredible. I wanted to ask, in the displays, when you are in like that airport, do you pay for, if you don't mind me asking, do you pay for that location, or is it collaborative or donated, or how does that one work?
It changes with every airport. The Atlanta airport really treats artists the way I feel like they need to be treated. A lot of airports will say, well, this is great exposure, so that's your payment. And I think that's bullshit. You can't eat off of exposure.
You said it, sister.
How many times I have been offered fabulous exposure. Atlanta pays $25,000 for a year-long exhibition, and then I fundraise on top of that. They allow me to get sponsors. I'm not making sellable clothes, obviously, and I'm not selling my work, and then I make money off of exhibiting it. So that show has been turned into a traveling exhibit, and it goes to small, modest museums and art centers around the country. I have a manager who manages it, and so after she gets her cut, I get like around 12,000 a show.
At what point in your career did you start collaborating, and how do you manifest that?
So I started doing this work because I was working in the world of recycling, and I've always been an artist, and I've sewed a lot, and kind of all those three things kind of collided. I was working in the city of Santa Fe as a recycling coordinator, and wanted to start an event to help people look differently at trash. And so I got together with some artists, and we started this recycled art market and trash fashion show, and I started making the pieces to promote that. And then I started hosting like mini recycled fashion shows at my recycling events. And then I held these mini shows, and then my peers around the country started learning about these shows I was doing, and they started asking me to come to their communities. And so at that point, I was doing shows every year for the National Recycling Coalition, and their board members kind of thought it was neat and each of them started to commission new pieces from me. So Target was my first commission, and then Coca-Cola and the Glass Packaging Institute and Toyota and blah, blah, blah. So those were kind of one-dimensional collaborations. But the really interesting ones for me were ones where people helped me to make the garments.
Yeah, how do we get a bunch of little worker bees to like that dress behind you that took, I don't know how many thousands of hours?
Yeah. This is the aluminum drop dress. If you guys could see me, you'd totally laugh. I'm in one of my crates that hold my garments, and I made this little tiny office. And so like, I'll just show you, like, I'm like, this is like the crate, and here's like the window. And anyway, so I have a piece right here. This is the aluminum drop dress, and so it's made from pieces of aluminum cans that were cut into little raindrop shapes and then sewn onto a shower curtain, and it makes a lovely sound as you shake it. But yeah, so each of my pieces is extremely time intensive, like 100 hours to 600 hours. It is helpful to have people work on them, but I'm going to share my screen again and just show you a picture of a collaborative piece to give you an idea of, sorry.
I kind of like that you're in your crate. It makes me feel like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. I have this little nook, this little corner that I've created. Like, okay, she's like, down to earth and like human, not that you weren't, but you know what I mean? Like you've got like a little space. And so we all kind of created our own little spaces out of, I'm just like, oh, okay.
Totally.
I think she's on the road between shows. I don't know.
No, I'm at home. At home. So like I said, I had an exhibition in the Atlanta airport prior to the one that you just saw, and it came down, and then it traveled for a while in these big crates, and now it's done. And so now I'm stuck with like 12 huge crates that have taken up my whole garage, which was my studio space, and I have to pay for storage somewhere else. And so now I'm in a place where I actually want to start offloading work, and I'm trying to figure out how exactly to do that. So this is an example of a collaborative project. It's called the Eco Flamenco, and I made this dress with 5,000 people over a 3-week period. And the dress itself is made out of parachute scraps, and it's covered, the ruffles are cereal boxes that were painted red and then cut into circles. And then people wrote on the circles pledges, so things that they could do to live lighter on the earth. People contributed by donating the paint and donating the cereal boxes and cutting the cereal boxes, but most people donated by writing on them. But I actually did have a group of sewers who helped me to sew the circles onto the dress, and that was really, 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 really helpful. But this was like, if I take all the hours, all of us, that's like a 650-hour project.
Wow. By the way, you guys are just seeing the tip of the iceberg here. You really need to delve into her website and look at all she's done. I'm still I saw your garbage man just was in the display too. I just love that one. That one just makes my heart happy. all of us little sewers need to do things that are much more time economical. We have a challenge that's a week long. I encourage all of us to do a challenge we think we can get done in a day. I just want to say another huge thank you. Nancy, you've been just so wonderful to have here.
Yes.
This has been a breath of fresh air, and
I hope
I
you come
love
back.
your work.
Come back.
Thank
feel
you.
so-
You
I
guys
feel
are a breath
so
of fresh
not
air
right.
too. It's been really fun meeting you and hearing your ideas. Really inspiring. Yeah.